Hey everybody, and welcome to Virtual TrekCon 6 with Sirach Lofton.
Hello.
Can you believe it's 6 already? My name is Ryan T. Husk, and look who we have here today. We've got Dominic Keating, Connor Trinneer, you know them from Star Trek Enterprise, or the Decon Chamber. How you guys doing today?
Good, man. Guys. Good to see you. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you, guys. The legends, Connor and Dom.
We have become so. I know it's taken 20 years, but yeah,
I wonder exactly what that legend might look like.
Yeah, it looks like
this. Well, Enterprise started almost 24 years ago, right?
Yeah, it sure did, man. Yeah,
you got to bracket in with the legacy. You're in that legacy bracket.
We are.
Yeah, bringing up the back end.
Well, let's start off first of all on Enterprise. Have you guys gone back and watched your old show, and if so, how much of it?
Well, I've seen it all.
Yeah, I mean, we'd seen it all in the day and over the years, but we've gone back recently to do, watch parties. And at the moment we're at, I believe, episode 8.
Yes.
And that's interesting because, you guys have done this, other podcasts have as well, but it's really interesting to go back and watch the show with not a critical eye, but an eye nonetheless that is trying to assess where we were, where the show was going, and how we were doing at that given time.
Yeah, and slightly dispassionately, if you will. I mean, there's a tenderness going back and looking at oneself 5 years later on, recognizing some of the greenness, and neither of us were not unseasoned actors, but neither of us had a series regular part. And that really is a benchmark that actors, have to get to. You really cut your teeth when you're doing it week in, week out, and watching it, literally 2 weeks later, and going, "Well, don't do that again."
And I want to ask you, when you're watching it now, because I know a lot of actors, including myself, I kind of don't like watching myself.
Not a huge.
I'm not a huge fan of watching myself. I'm very critical of myself. I'm looking at it like I could have done that. I shouldn't have done this. Should, your head, whatever it is, facial expressions, the line deliveries. You just start to critique yourself to the nth degree. And but the other thing that I've found, that once enough time has elapsed, where it's far enough away from the point that you've done it, you can start to look at it a little bit more objectively and less personal.
With some tenderness and
with some tenderness and fondness, yes.
Fondness and being a little kinder to yourself. And even with episodic, I mean, they don't shoot. You shoot fast. It's not it's not a 6-day shoot, 23 pages a day, but it's fast enough, and you don't get if technically they've got the take right, they're moving on.
They're moving on.
It's rare that a director, if you plead to I got one more, it better be better.
I mean, and echoing that, I also felt, I can speak only for myself, that in the beginnings of our show, as we're doing now, I was just working too hard.
Yeah,
I wasn't quite
throwing it away.
Yeah. I wasn't quite grooving on and throwing it away and grooving on. Everything was so very important that came out of my mouth.
Yes.
That I do know that eventually, I don't even know where that moment was. I guess we'll find it, where I found myself just inhabiting the role on that day, as opposed to making it happen.
Yeah, gilding the lily on every line. Gilding it. Gilding the Malcolm lily. Yeah, agreed. And there was just this last episode I watched I remember being nervous. They suddenly put me in the captain's chair. They were all down on an away mission, and I was in charge of the ship. And suddenly I was getting the hero shot, and it was like.
So was there a bit of that? Was there nervousness there?
Oh yeah.
Was that? I mean, you got Scott Bakula. I mean, you've got all these, guys that have done this before, I guess.
Yeah.
And you mentioned being the first time on a series, so I mean, you must have had similar experience to me.
Regular roles and done regular, but you hadn't done back to back to back. You.
Well, this is every day. This is
you
like
go
you
go to Vancouver for 2 weeks and do 2 episodes, and then you go away for 3 months and then go back and do another 2 episodes, and it's not the same gymnasium. Of doing it week in, week out with that black box that suddenly you just aren't even aware the black box is there, and it's your friend. And actually, if you are aware it's there, you're using the black box to your favor. You're showing them a bit of it and then turning away. And it's skill, it's and comfortability and confidence when you do see the finished result and you go, oh, you know what? That was good. That bit was good.
There's an element as well. I think that when you start out on a show, I can't imagine a show that doesn't have this for actors who have just had their first series, and that you're not quite inhabiting the thing as you are telling everybody that you're doing the thing.
Yeah,
and the difference is. The difference is quite big.
As a child, I mean, Sirach, you were younger. Did you not have a certain sort of freedom that I'm just a kid and I'm just playing here, or were you an uptight actor kid who was like, no, I got to get this perfect, and do you know what I'm saying?
I have a general. You guys know me. I have a real kind of laissez-faire approach to things. I'm not that intense and serious about things in general. I'm really light, but I do have a desire to be knowledgeable about subject matter. So I want to make sure I'm prepared for my own, lines when the scene comes. Right. But there was a sense of freeness, but then there was also a sense of I don't want to mess things up, and I'm a little afraid to be the guy who stands out as the oddball out.
Right. Yeah. And you're the child in a group of seasoned actors.
Right. Yeah. So I don't want to be like, oh, this kid screwed it up again. We got to go back to number 1 because of this guy who's not ready. There's a little bit of.
I think there's also a bit of like, but by the time you realize you're not going to get fired for doing this, you begin to relax a little bit.
Well, Connor, you mentioned kind of feeling like you didn't want to throw away any of the lines, and you had to make sure every line counted, and you wanted every line delivery to mean something and be, perfect. Where'd that pressure come from? Did you feel like, because I know there were a lot of times where, as a fan, I was watching the show, and after 2 seasons, there were already rumors that the show might get canceled, and after 3 seasons, the show might get canceled. And after 4 seasons, it did, so I wonder if there was there some of that where you guys, was there a pressure that you guys felt like every show, every episode has to count, or was it just your own self as an actor?
I did, well, especially in the first season, which we have been rediscovering. No, it really wasn't so much that because that would then ask me, I'm responsible somehow for the success or failure of this show. And I never felt that way.
Oh, I know.
What I did feel was what I really felt initially was that I was trying to, make my bona fides as my own character and showing that and not knowing, of course, you don't know what is the next episode. You just know the episode that you have. So, for instance, we were doing the previous episode, and I literally had a script full of catchphrases.
Yeah.
And how do you make a catchphrase your own? Typically it's like, you're out of gas, you might want to try and let it you know, and you know, you want to make it your own, but I think that really, truly, at least for me, I was trying to make myself important in this big cast of people. And the reality is that the way that you do that is just to kind of groove into it as opposed to forcing it. And I have felt in watching the first several episodes that I was like, dang it, it's my turn.
Yeah.
You know, and that eventually goes away.
Yeah, I think that, and oftentimes there's a competitiveness. It's not necessarily against your other actors, but certainly I need to shine, and wherever I can find a moment to shine, rather than picking 2 moments in a half-hour episode, you pick 32 moments in a half-hour episode,
Right.
and you screw it up.
It's almost antithetical to storytelling, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, you read a book and you know, there are moments that pop out at you, and they're meant to pop out at you, and when you're the one speaking the words and carrying the character, you have to have a little patience and just.
And the other thing is, I think Connor and I both came from very much stage background, and I think that was a disservice to us initially. You know, can you hear me at the back acting? And
the volume, you mean, just projecting?
Yeah,
the voice?
just exactly. Just being, you know, over. I was playing to Johnny Props on the other side of the camera, rather than, you know, the 5 million people in the box.
Right.
Yeah.
I jokingly made a comment recently where I said when I got the job that I actually thought I was the star of this show and it was all about me. Right?
You weren't?
I know. And then I got the call sheet and I'm like, number 9?
That stings.
Hey, it's Deep Space Nine.
All right.
But, you know, how much of that is kind of the approach that you do have to take when you go into this, where it's like you kind of, from your perspective, have to feel a little bit about, like, this is about my journey, you know, and I'm going to bring life to that in some sense. I know, you know, it's all about Star Trek and the captain and all of these other things, but you have to still bring life to your own story. And you almost have to approach it as if it is all about you to some degree.
And Sirach, there's a sweet spot in there where it's real.
Right.
And, you know, before that, you can overact and you can look back at yourself and be like, oh man, just slow it down. Just let it sit there with you. But the sweet spot takes time to figure out, because what you're doing is you're merging this 3-line character byline to you. And eventually at some point, that 3-line byline gets infused into who you are.
Yeah.
And because they cast you.
And they cast you for a reason.
They cast you for a reason.
Yeah. They saw whatever they envisaged in you. Yeah.
Well, they have trust. They have faith in the choices that you made in the audition. Those choices, character choices, the delivery. They have faith in those choices, and so there's a level of confidence.
I did tell Rick Berman that I didn't really look like a Malcolm, though, and he was like,
I wish
"We thought you did."
I wish they'd given us some kind of, like, you know, playbook. You know,
yeah, they're not going to do that.
You're the guy, so just ease into that and let that happen.
And service the story. That's the other. As I've gotten older, you know, 20-something years on, and now 36 years in the business, I'm very much more interested in servicing the story than servicing my part in the story.
Right.
You know, the ego's gotten out of the way. Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Now, here's another question I have for you.
Say again.
So when we do our rewatches, we're watching Next Generation on the 7th Rule, and so part of the rewatch is taking note of who wrote the episode and who directed the episode. And what I find is a lot of the directors that I worked with were already directing the next generation before I met them, right? The Cliff Bowles of the world, the Les Landows. And my question is, when you're watching it, are you critiquing some of the director's choices that you see? Are you seeing shots and saying this is boring or stagnant and not really moving the story along?
Initially, yeah, when we shot them on the day, and then you'd see them 2 weeks later, I was like, "That's what they saw I did." Yeah,
and also, you have directors with different MOs. For instance, Mike Vehar, a very good director. He came from an editing school, and so he knew that say after the first third of the first half of the scene was done, the rest of it was egg. It didn't matter. And he would say, he very good director, was not a good actor's director, in my opinion, in the sense that, you need to ramp up to a point. You can't just start like halfway through something and go there. But he, in his head, in his mind, he was operating as an editor. He was like, I don't need this. I just need this. And so you have those sorts of scenarios, and then you have someone like LeVar who was like, do whatever you want, man. Just do whatever you want. Alan Croker, same way. And then you'd have conversations about what that scene might have looked like, and then you do it again, and it might be a different note, but you had different directors. Again, it's how you process and how you activate your art and what you're doing, and everybody has somewhat different ways of approaching it.
Yeah, they do. I mean, a lot of people do have different ways. I mentioned to David Livingston when we had him on, I said, David, you're one of the few, if not the only director I know that used to say, cut, print, do it again. Like, cut, print, do it again. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah, the T-shirt.
And it was always just one more. Just let's do it one more time. Just give me another one. I know. And it would always
just loved directing, and he just didn't want it to end.
He didn't want it to end, but hour 16, we
you were ready.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you guys something about Enterprise as a whole, because every show has its ups and downs, and I thought the Enterprise was fantastic and phenomenal, and I love the shit out of the song. I don't care what anybody says, everybody should love that song. That theme song is beautiful, and you guys do it every year at STLV during karaoke, and I'm very grateful for that, because that is a gigantic highlight for me every single year for several years. But what do you think Enterprise got right? Looking back on it, what do you think they did right?
Oh, I think we got our mission right. We got our mission.
We were a prequel. Yeah,
we didn't have enough time to complete that, but what we were going for was being a prequel and approaching it in that regard. And I think that we did that the whole time.
Yeah, our first faltering but meant well, meaningfully well steps out into deeper space, slightly hoisted by the Vulcan petard, but I think we did it well, and there was a nice cohesion in our cast. It trod a fine line between science fiction and some good humor, which I always found we had great chemistry between the cast, and we laughed a lot making the show, and that translated, I think, to the finished product. We enjoyed ourselves there, And
I think if there was any failure, it wasn't in regard to the cast in which they performed their acts.
No,
it was the fact that it had been on for 17 years, and
the well was getting a little dry, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How many times can you go to the well? And I that's what we suffered from more than what we did as people actors trying to propagate the storyline of being a prequel of Star Trek.
You know, it's really cool that you. Sorry, go ahead, Dominic.
I was going to say, I mean, that the Brannon, you know, God bless, who probably was the dynamo of that show and other iterations. You know, he did a variation of a theme for 16 years. He must have been exhausted, and you saw the difference in the uptake when Manny took over in season 4. And that suddenly this fresh blood and a huge advancement for him in his career suddenly made a big difference. And it's too bad that the changing face of TV nixed his 5th and 6th season. So,
and I think there's something about they talk about we're the last series of the legacy Trek and what's gone on beyond that. Now, if you think about what's gone on beyond that, it's things that we couldn't do, either technologically or it wasn't part of our ethos of our storyline.
A lot of storylines that might have modernized our show and actually found a new spring of water in the well. Unfortunately, and no disrespect to Rick, because he thought he had something. It ain't broke, don't fix it. A lot of storylines got shot down that were more controversial, that were more modern, and maybe appealing to a younger audience that we needed to attract. And it took them, 12 years to then find Discovery, which was an entirely different animal. And we might have. I think there were I'm sure there were some very heated debates in the Cooper building about what the next episode could be. And
I've said this before. You cannot forget that our show was defined by 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. There was a time in that world. Our show changed as a result of 9/11, and it happened very, very soon in our iteration. And I think that to watch that show, to watch our show without knowing that, you're doing yourself a disservice. Know when you're watching our show that we were defined by 9/11.
And I always say the success of 24 with the through arc through 24 episodes.
Well, for season 3,
the Xindi became about 9/11 and 24. Yeah, that each episode was not a standalone episode; it was now a through arc. And
well, something that I've noticed too, and I'm not going to name anybody specifically because I don't like to trash anybody, but I will say this for the purpose of this point. Is that out of a lot of the stuff that I've seen, I feel like a lot of the core Star Trek kind of storytelling and ways of telling story have been altered to some degree. And unfairly, I think Enterprise has gotten criticism that when you look back at it, it seems to be more Star Trek than a lot of the Star Trek that that I see.
Yeah, I have to say. I mean, I think it was. I mean, not to name shows or
I'm not. Yeah, not to name anybody.
I've watched a lot of other Star Trek, and I'll agree. A lot of other Star Treks tedious as shit.
Yeah, but that show holds up with time, and it definitely has all of the characteristics of what quality Star Trek is all about.
Really, honestly, if we'd done the 5, 6, and 7, I think we'd have gone down the annals of all-time great Star Trek.
Sure,
I really do.
I think that also, you have to remember that, there's somewhat of an Americanism about Enterprise.
Yeah, there is.
There's a certain Americanism about.
Yeah, I sense that as well.
We approached everything we did.
Again, back to this 9/11 discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, and look at the knee-jerk reaction to 9/11 in the real world is mirrored there on our show. Let's go blow these up. Yeah, and we all felt that.
Yeah.
I know I did, and I wasn't even a citizen then, but I'd been in America long enough, and I was like, yeah, no. If they want to play like this, okay.
And I'd like to add one more thing to the statement you made a little bit earlier ago about not really getting that full chance to spread your wings in season 5. And for the record now, after watching the first, 4 seasons now in season 5 of Next Generation, season 5 of Next Generation so far has been the best season of the series. Yeah. And season 5 of Deep Space Nine is arguably the best
that's right.
season of Deep Space Nine. Yeah. So usually it takes around 4, halfway through 4, before you really start, hitting the pay dirt.
You find your sea legs in a way.
Yeah, that's when you start hitting gold.
Interview with Cillian Murphy just yesterday after his success with Oppenheimer, and he wasn't sure whether it was Sidney Lumet or Sydney, one of the Sydneys, who said it takes about 30 years to become an actor. And I was like, yeah, I get that. It does. Yeah. You have to, it's all got to permeate through you as a human being, and all your life experience has got to get wrapped up in your technique. And then you might actually be quite a good actor.
Yeah, your job isn't to impress. Your job isn't to save. Your job is to tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Tell the story. Service the story truthfully. Yeah.
And I would actually add to that the reason is because you have to know yourself in order to have that truth that resonates.
Absolutely.
And it takes
above
about
all
that
else,
long.
Be true to thyself.
And it takes about that long to find your truth in life as you're searching through adolescence and going through adulthood and things of that nature. It takes a while to figure out what it defines me. What do I draw the line at? What am I attracted to? What repels me? What am I disgusted by? And
what
all
life experiences have you endured?
And then what do I want to be? What do I want to leave behind, message wise, and what we get a finite amount of time, right? And eventually, it's like it's all going to go, and you want to be able to leave something behind where people say, you know what, I like that. I like that. That was good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which brings us to something that you're leaving behind for everybody right now. Which is something I think that you'll be remembered by for decades and centuries to come. You guys are doing a show called the Decon Chamber. You're not reading somebody else's lines. You're not trusting some editor, to get your best take. You are being yourselves. You are saying what you feel, what you think. You are leaving your legacy behind. Can you tell people a little bit about the Decon Chamber?
Oh, yeah.
It's a long-form chat show. We'd like to, strictly speaking, I guess it's a podcast, but I think that does it a disservice. I think it's a long-form chat. We do film it. It goes up on YouTube. It's live on Sundays at 11 a.m. PST. And it's really, initially and still is mostly Trek-centric chat show, but we're branching out, and we've now got a couple of people with their fingers in the pie helping us get other guests from other genres, as it were. So we expect to see sort of Marvel-esque people and DC people. Yeah.
Big time.
Nice.
It's been an extraordinary adventure, and getting to, we do the research, and you get to learn a lot about someone before they come on. You will note that unlike other shows of similar nature, we don't have notes at all, and and the conversation just flows, and it's something we're very proud of. I know.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things that I would echo with what you guys are doing, we've done, as you have as well, I'm sure, other podcasts where the people who are interviewing us or talking to us don't quite have an understanding about what it means to have a real conversation with someone. And I think that you guys do this as well, and we really try to do that, is that we do the research and then we just look. It's almost like how an actor prepares. You do all the work before you ever get there and then see what happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's the wonder of a real good conversation. I think that's one of the things that is good about our show, is that what we do is we do the work, and ultimately when somebody comes on, we're ready for any way and direction this conversation might go.
I kind of liken it to a stand-up comedian because what they do is they write all their jokes out, they plan everything out, they workshop it, they do all this stuff. They put it on their little stool next to their water so that when they run out of things to say, they pretend to take a sip of water, they check their notes. But they only check that when they run out of things to say. If things are flowing, if people are laughing, if things are moving, fuck that stool. Just keep it going and have fun.
Just let it roll. Let it roll.
I've worked with that stool. He's a bitch.
No, you guys are doing great. I mean, and then, the natural chemistry that you have between each other. The two of you have some of the best chemistry I've seen between two cast members.
That is definitely one of the secret sort of sources of the show.
Yeah.
You and I have known each other through thick and thin for 25 years now. And we're
so
like
who's the good cop? Who's the bad cop? If we were interrogation.
I'm the good cop.
I'm the bad cop. I'll ask maybe the more slightly risque, poignant. I did say to him not that long ago, "You've never said anything controversial in your life."
Wow, that's tough.
That's not true. That is also not true.
That's also not true. But I am more likely to be slightly more controversial.
No, honestly, you guys have some of the best chemistry.
I get away with it
between each other. Honestly, I mean, I can't even think of two buddies that are close as you guys, chemistry wise, on film, on camera, listening to your conversations. It's just the flow is amazing.
Thank you, Sirach. I think one of the things that is a gift for our show and also for our relationship as friends is that we are different cats, man. We are different people, but we have this desire to connect, and the connection that we have, it's mysterious, ethereal, whatever it is. We're just dear friends, and we respect
each other. There's a great respect for one another's ability, talent, and just who we are as human beings. And that's
I totally agree too. I also, that's why I think it works, is because the differences are there. There's enough variety there for everybody who's listening. Where you might get something more brash from Dom.
Might.
And the other thing about us is, because we've gone through so much history together, and just we both know where all the bodies are buried.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So mostly it's Connor pulling back the reins, like not all the way.
Not that one. Not that one.
He knows where the shallow graves are.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like Martin and Lewis without the breakup.
Yeah.
No, we love it. So how many years? This is like, what is this? I mean, this pairing, is it 2 years now?
Coming up on 2 years. We did that other show for a minute, which we had to sadly walk away from, which was a great shame because we did some great work on that, and we cut our teeth in that show.
I think we're 4 years in, right? We're 4 years in.
4 years total. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's
and
nuts.
did you find a lot of the people found you over at Decon Chamber now and have moved over and kind of made the transition with you?
Not with such alacrity as I might have hoped, actually. So whoever's listening and doesn't realise that we've moved over from the Shuttle Pod show to the Decon Chamber, wake up and come and join us at the Decon.
Get with the program.
We've had many conversations at conventions over the last couple of years since we've been doing the Decon Chamber, where people are like, "I love your show," and my first thought is, which one? and about half the time, it's not the Decon Chamber, and you have to you have to bring them into the fold.
Yeah.
Well, what if you guys, this does a part in that, and people who are listening can go out and listen to the Decon Chamber and make sure that you get with the new program so you can follow these guys and help support them in their vision going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we're contractually obligated to say Decon Chamber 20 times in this interview. We're at 13, so we're almost there. But
Decon Chamber.
What if you guys learned about yourselves while doing the Decon Chamber, that everybody, you can find it wherever podcasts are found?
That's a good question.
What have we learned about ourselves?
Yeah.
What I've learned about myself is that I'm best at this when I'm riffing off of something.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm hearing somebody say something and then going on to, and hopefully furthering and deepening the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to share.
You mean personal stories? Like personal stories?
Yeah, he's quite a private person. And he's opened up quite a lot in the 2.5 years, 3 years we've been doing this.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I am...
And I love that, Connor, by the way. I loved how you've opened up and shared yourself with us, because we love you, and thank you for sharing yourself with us.
This is actually interesting as we go along with this. What I've learned is that I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
You mentioned that at this last convention, and I thought that was very
which I never would have
forthcoming.
I never knew. All the times in our younger years doing the show and hanging out and going to dinners and parties, I never, if you told me, 20 years from now, Connor's going to say, "No, I'm an introvert," I'm going, "What's he talking about?" He's the laugh right at the party. But he's taught me how to listen more and to slow my mind down. My mind goes at 1,000 miles an hour. And someone says something, and then I want to ask them about that, and then I want to ask them about that, and they haven't even finished the first thought about the first thing they said that made me think about that, and that, and it's taught me to just sit back and take a leaf out of Con's book, which is chill, man. Let them speak. We're not getting paid any more money.
Well, and that to me is why you guys make a great combo, because. Yeah. On one end, Connor's getting, out of his introvert shell and sharing his life with us that we are all fascinated by, and hearing those stories that are like one of a kind, 1 in a million stories that you have. And then Dom, you're also giving us something different too by listening more and reflecting on things and making these points to stay focused on a subject matter and cover it in depth. So. I think
we're very good at covering
each other.
The gaps. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love it when he covers my gap, as it were. That's not code.
Hey, that's personal business, guys. That's what you got. That's behind the paywall, guys.
I think we're okay to explore that a bit more. Go ahead.
I think the yin and the yang of these two human beings being together doing a show is it's our secret sauce.
Yeah,
I think that
really enjoy it.
Yeah,
and we honestly at the end of a show, we hug each other and just go, "That was really fun." I get nervous still. He's not so nervous as me, but I still get nervous before showtime. It's just the way I've always been as an actor. I was never a throw-up actor, off stage, but definitely like stomach's rumbling, starting to sweat a bit. And but we get to the end of the show, and we brought another one in, and we're just super proud. And we go. There are some shows we know that we look at each other and go, "It's gold."
Yeah.
And let me add, from my own experience, I think it's extremely humbling when I'm at one of the conventions and somebody comes up to the table and says, "I listened to your podcast, and I love listening to you." It's a super humbling thing. It's like,
it is.
Because
when you look at the numbers of the people who are listening, you go, "Wow."
And I'm so appreciative of that, almost more so than having watched Star Trek. I kind of expect you to watch Star Trek, but if you listen to the podcast, that's like a level of support that I know that, not everybody gets. So I'm grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. We don't have UPN, right? We don't have UPN doing this.
I mean, people take their time out to go the extra mile to find these podcasts and to spend time and dedicate the hours that it takes to listen to these interviews just so they can get inside information on somebody that they like to watch on screen. And I think that's what our obligation is, to provide that for these people, so that when they tune in, they get something different and new that they wouldn't get, just having a conversation or watching.
That is a very valid point, Sirach. And I think that's something that we naturally do. We're not shy about telling the truth without throwing anyone under the bus. And definitely. And it makes it more interesting, and they get a greater understanding of what it was like to make these shows, to be actors on these shows, and what it meant to our lives. Because God knows, we know that this phenomenon has changed all our lives for the better.
And I also look at it for the long lens of life, where long after we're gone, and and some kids writing a paper on Enterprise, and the material that you guys are putting out there may be part of his research that he's making this
thank
point.
You for saying that, because there was a time when we were doing these interviews and I thought, this is for posterity.
Yes.
We're getting George Takei, we're getting Walter Koenig, we're getting Bill Shatner. And these guys are not going to be around that much longer. No. God bless. I mean, I hope they are. But
well, Shatner's going to outlive us all. But I see the point.
And one day, you and I, and we're gonna be them too.
Exactly, which is why I think there is a value in taking the time out to cover the material in this in-depth way and leaving it for posterity, so people have more understanding of both the time.
Agreed.
Like just mentioning the 9/11 aspect, putting that in context. Now somebody who's researching is going to say, "Oh, I have to put that lens on as well in order to contextualize what I'm seeing."
I quite agree.
We didn't do for a long time any watch parties whatsoever. We were so fortunate that we were able to get guest after guest after guest. But I will tell you that I've gotten so much joy out of revisiting in a particular way our episodes and talking about them. There's something about watching them. We're both watching them, and then we go and talk about what the episode was like to make, the episode itself, how we thought about the episode, how socially the episode was living. I've gotten a lot of joy out of the opportunity to be able to, just the two of us, Dom, to look at these episodes and to evaluate them.
Take a walk down the memory lane, which is lovely, and to critique them. As because you and I, we're all viewers, and we all are quite educated viewers, if you will. We know we've been behind the mirror and the smoke and the curtains and seen how shit gets made. So we're in a very good position to sort of comment on the production and then the actual human experience of making it. And that, I think it makes for a good listen. Yeah.
Well, they're excellent episodes, and we only have you guys for about another minute. So before you go, And by the way, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been just amazing. And it's been, your show had something amazing about it. I'm talking about Enterprise, which was on day one. They're showing us a series about the future, yet it had this nostalgic feel. And I've never seen a show be able to do that before or since. You created nostalgia for something that was taking place in the future, and it was beautiful. But can you give us
Zimmerman's, set designs and
really,
Billy? Do you remember Billy's name, the gaffer lighter? He did a great job lighting those sets. Billy Pete. And Marvin's DP work was, and we got, by the time we got the red camera, that really played into us because it works so well in dark, sort of
spaces,
dimly lit places. Yeah, it didn't work for everyone's shows, but it worked particularly well for ours.
So before you go, can you give us a quick tease or anything to look forward to on the Decon chamber for people to check out coming up?
Well,
that you can say.
I wish I could. I mean, I've got a couple of big names.
He's sitting on his hands, guys.
There's the tease. Somebody big. Names so big they can't say it.
One of them is particularly big, and I just don't want to jinx it. It's in process.
Wow. Okay.
We'll be looking forward. You'll be the first. How about this? You'll be the first to know.
Nonetheless, we are doing watch parties. We're doing our third tomorrow in 2 weeks, and
now people can join you for the watch parties. Like this is everyone coming in
every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time.
So if you've watched the episode the day before, come and join us live on Sunday, or then at your leisure watch it whenever you want. Nice. I think we are going to get Elias Tufexis and Eve Harlow from Discovery.
Wow, lock and mall.
She was a breakout star for me. And not to give him any lesser accolade, because he was terrific too.
Yes, he was.
But their Bonnie and Clyde adventure was fantastic.
Beautiful.
I thought.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just trying to think. I think Anthony Rapp and Wilson Cruz are still in line to come on.
Nice.
I think we've got Brent Spiner.
What?
Yeah.
Heard of him.
We're going to mention any of these names. You weren't going to.
He just went through the whole list.
Brent's more of a shoo-in than the other big name.
We'll edit that out then. Yeah. We'll just put a beep right there.
I think Brent's going to do it. I think he is. And if he doesn't now, we can shame him.
All right. Well, we've done a lot of good here, I think, everybody. And I know you got to run, but we really appreciate you guys jumping on with us. We want to wish you tons and tons of continued success. We hope every one of our fans and supporters go over and support you guys as well.
Happy blessing.
You guys are awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much. Everybody stick around. We've got way more stuff to show you on Virtual TrekCon 6. What's our closing thing for Virtual TrekCon 6, Rock?
Goodbye.
Bye.
I want to say how much we love you guys, and the support you've given us has been immeasurable, and appreciate it to no end. And we're big fans of you.
Thanks, man.
On your show and as in life when we see you.
Absolutely.
Man, we love you guys, man.
Always look forward to seeing you guys and hanging out at the next convention. And of course, we're always going to be here to support you. If any kind of want to make any announcements or anything, you always can call on us to be there for you. So we love you guys. Hey guys, get off the old show and get onto the Decon chamber. It's already, already 2 years on.
Come on.
Well, get the memo. Decon chamber.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say, everybody, is bye.
Bye.